Good morning, everyone. We are beginning chapter 8 of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory today. And Charlie just had his birthday. Quick recap from yesterday. He just had his birthday. He did not get a golden ticket in his chocolate bar. And I think there were 2 tickets found so far. So I don't know about you all, but I really love Charlie. I love the character of Charlie. I think he's really sweet and generous and just a really all-around nice kid. So I'm rooting for him. I mean, some of us already know how the story turns out, but yeah. Chapter 8. 2 more golden tickets found. You can see a little, the illustrations in this really make the kiddos look kind of interesting. Okay. That evening, Mr. Bucket's newspaper announced the finding of not only the 3rd golden ticket, but the 4th as well. 2 golden tickets found today, screamed the headlines. Only 1 more left. All right, said Grandpa Joe when the whole family was gathered in the old people's room after supper. Let's hear who found them. The 3rd ticket, read Mr. Bucket, holding the newspaper up close to his face because his eyes were bad and he couldn't afford glasses. The 3rd ticket was found by a Miss Violet Beauregard. There was great excitement in the Beauregard household when our reporter arrived to interview the lucky young lady. Cameras were clicking and flashbulbs were flashing and people were pushing and jostling and trying to get a bit closer to the famous girl. And the famous girl was standing on a chair in the living room, waving the golden ticket madly at arm's length as though she were flagging a taxi. She was talking very fast and very loudly to everyone, but it was not easy to hear all that she said because she was chewing so ferociously upon a piece of gum at the same time. I'm a gum chewer normally, she shouted, but when I heard about these ticket things and Mr. Wonka's, I gave up gum and started on chocolate. Bars in the hope of striking lucky. Now, of course, I'm back on gum. I just adore gum. I can't do without it. I munch it all day long, except for a few minutes at mealtimes when I take it out and stick it behind my ear for safekeeping. To tell you the truth, I simply wouldn't feel comfortable if I didn't have that little wedge of gum to chew on every moment of the day. I really wouldn't. My mother says it's not ladylike and it looks ugly to see a girl's jaw going up and down like mine do all the time, but I don't agree. And who's she to criticize anyway? Because if you ask me, I'd say that her jaws are going up and down almost as much as mine are just from yelling at me every minute of the day. Now, Violet, Mrs. Beauregard said from a far corner of the room where she was standing on the piano to avoid being trampled by the mob. All right, Mother, keep your hair on, Miss Beauregard shouted. And now, she went on, turning to the reporters again, it may interest you to know that this piece of gum I'm chewing right at this moment is one I've been working on for over 3 months solid. That's a record, that is. It's beaten the record held by my best friend, Miss Cornelia Prinzmetal, and was she furious. It's my most treasured possession now, this piece of gum is, at nighttime. I just stick it on the end of the bedpost, and it is as good as ever in the mornings. A bit hard at first, maybe, but it soon softens up again after I've given it a few good chews. Before I started chewing for the world record, I used to change my piece of gum once a day. I used to do it in our lift on the way home from school. Why the lift? Because I liked sticking the gooey piece that I just finished with onto one of the control buttons. Then the next person who came along and pressed the button got my old gum on the end of his or her finger. And what a racket they kicked up, some of them. You got the best results with women who have expensive gloves on. Oh, yes, I'm thrilled to be going to Mr. Wonka's factory. And I understand that afterwards he's going to give me enough gum to last me for the rest of my whole life. Woohoo! Hooray! Beastly girl, said Grandma Josephine. Despicable, said Grandma Georgina. She'll come to a sticky end one day chewing all that gum. You see if she doesn't. And who got the 4th golden ticket, Charlie asked. Now let me see, said Mr. Bucket, peering at the newspaper again. Ah, yes, here we are. The 4th golden ticket, he read, was found by a boy called Mike TV. Another bad lad, I'll be bound, muttered Grandma Josephine. Don't interrupt, Grandma, said Mrs. Bucket. The TV household, said Mr. Bucket, going on with his reading, was crammed like all the others with excited visitors when our reporter arrived. But young Mike TV, the lucky winner, seemed extremely annoyed by the whole business. Can't you fools see I'm watching television? He said angrily. I wish you wouldn't interrupt. The 9-year-old boy was seated before an enormous television set with his eyes glued to the screen. And he was watching a film in which one bunch of gangsters was shooting up another bunch of gangsters with machine guns. Mike TV himself had no less than 18 toy pistols of various sizes hanging from belts around his body, and every now and again he would leap up into the air and fire off half a dozen rounds from one or another of these weapons. Quiet, he shouted when someone tried to ask him a question. Didn't I tell you not to interrupt? This show is an absolute whiz-banger. It's terrific. I watch it every day. I watch all of them every day. Even the rotten ones where there's no shooting. I like the gangsters best. So all of that is very terrible and not okay. They're terrific, those gangsters, especially when they start pumping each other full of lead or flashing the old stilettos or giving each other the 1, 2, 3 with their knuckle dusters. Gosh, what I wouldn't give to be doing that myself. It's the life, I tell you. It's terrific. That's quite enough, snapped Grandma Josephine. I can't bear to listen to it. That's how I feel too. Nor me, said Grandma Georgina. Do all children behave like this nowadays? Of course not, said Mr. Bucket, smiling at the old lady in the bed. Some do, of course. In fact, quite a lot of them, but not all. And now there's only one ticket left, said Grandpa George. Quite so, sniffed Grandma Georgina. And just as sure as I'll be having cabbage soup for supper tomorrow, that ticket will go to some nasty little beast who doesn't deserve it. This is a good time to introduce you to the term hyperbole, if you haven't already learned about it. So hyperbole is when you exaggerate a characteristic or exaggerate something to make a point. And I think each one of these kiddos, Violet, Beauregard, and Mike TV, and where are our other kiddos? Veruca Salt and Augustus Gloop, they all kind of amplify characteristics that are less than desirable. And so while these children are, and it's supposed to be a depiction of something that's very, very unseemly, something you really wouldn't want to behave like, I think just to try to draw a comparison between these kiddos and Charlie. So Charlie is this good-natured, really sweet kid who doesn't have a ton of money, but he's got a lot of love and a lot of compassion, and he's really generous. And then, you know, in comparison to these other 4 people, he's very different from them. And so I think that what Mr. Dahl has done with with Charlie and the Chocolate Factory is just to try to demonstrate the difference between Charlie and these other kiddos, and then also to kind of draw out very unseemly characteristics and hyperbolize or exaggerate what you know those characteristics could turn into if they go unchecked. That's what I think. Anyways, I'm gonna stop there because I want the girls to join me for chapter 9. They're really interested in what's gonna happen next, and we had kind of read ahead a little bit last night, and I forgot to record it. So I will record the next couple of chapters once I have the little people of the house here. All right, missing you all. Really looking forward to seeing you soon. Please send me an email or a message, pictures if you draw any pictures or just want to chat. Feel free to reach out. Thinking about you, wishing you lots of health. Make sure you take advantage of this time to learn something new. Think about what you are learning, being at home with your parents and your family, because I'm sure you're learning something. Hopefully it's the value of, you know, family and the value of connection. And I am here if any of you want to chat. All right. Talk to you soon. Oh, there won't be a message on Monday or a reading on Monday because we'll be offline. But on Tuesday, there will be videos posted. Okay.